All right, what's going on, everyone? So today I'm going to be covering a little bit more of the grand juries and jury nullification and how extremely important it is that, again, learning your rights and learning how the constitutions work is extremely critical. So this jury nullification is, and especially with the grand juries, this is something that they do not want anyone knowing about. This is why they've spent decades using the public schooling systems, right, to dumb people down and take us away from our true power as the people, and not, right, they've taken away the fact that we control everything so that they can continue using us as debt slaves. And now, going through this jury nullification process, I'm going to show you exactly how we can utilize that to our advantage to destroy everything they're doing. So, go back to the structure of government. God created us, right? We created the constitutions. The constitutions created the government. Government created corporations and their codes and courts and all these little agents. But all of our public servants, okay, they're the ones that willingly agreed to be governed. They're the consent of the governed to be governed by the rules and laws laid out in the state and federal constitutions. That's why they're our public servants, and they willingly took this position. Okay, so we the people, we're at the top of the food chain. Our government and our public servants, they're at the bottom beneath us. But like we've seen, they've inverted the system and tricked people into believing their statutes and these administrative actors and administrative tribunals have all this power over us, right? But we know they're just administrative tribunals masquerading as judicial courts of record, and that we have administrative actors, executive branch employees, masquerading as judicial officers. And this is proven time and time again. But I'm going to go through and show you why jury nullification is one of our strongest tools here. So, in a jury trial, the most powerful person and people in the room is the jury. It's not the prosecutor, it's not the judge, it's you, the juror. Because again, the constitutions, they're not going to enforce themselves. We have to do this. This is why we have to be aware of our power and how to use it. So if you're ever on a jury, you need to understand this. You're not there to rubber stamp the law. Okay, you're there to judge the facts, the law, and the justness of the law itself. So this is where jury nullification comes in. So if you as the jury, as the jurors, believe a law is unjust, okay, it violates unalienable secured rights from our Creator, if the prosecutor can't prove harm done to a person or a property, doesn't matter what the statute they're telling you to use is, or what they're calling the law is, you can vote not guilty. And there's not a single judge, lawyer, or bureaucrat that can override your vote. That's called jury nullification, and it's 100% constitutional. This is also why they try to trick everyone into using their statutory jury trials and not trial of your peers. Now, I'm going to show you something real quick that ties again to the 14th Amendment system. Now, as I've shown you in my other videos, this is why understanding what they've done with the 14th Amendment is very crucial, okay? But here's the incorporation doctrine again. I showed you with the Fifth Amendment, they didn't incorporate to the U.S. citizen, okay, the grand juries. They also took away your right to select a jury of your peers that know you. That's where your jury of your peers, that's where that comes from. This is why they took that away, so that you get the illusion of their statutory trials, thinking that you have a jury of your peers, when that's not how it was established by our founders. They also don't give the U.S. citizen their Seventh Amendment right, which is your juries under the common law, not their statutory nonsense. This is very crucial to understand when you're arguing these things, because you have to understand your rights that are guaranteed to you that our public servants are sworn to protect. So now we also have some pretty key cites that come into this as well, right? Obviously the original Marbury versus Madison, which tells you all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. So again, any of their statutes they try to use against you, you again as the juror get to say, sorry, that's repugnant, and you get to use your vote. Okay. We also have U.S. versus Doherty, which is a 1972 case, and it says the jury has an unreviewable and irreversible power to acquit in disregard of the instructions on the law given by the trial judge. Hear that? In disregard of the instructions given to you by the judge. Because why? Because you as a juror, as the jury, you hold all the power, not your public servant. We also have John Jay, first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. The jury has the right to judge both the law and the facts in controversy. So that means no matter what that judge tells you, no matter what a statute says, you have the choice to rule not guilty, and that's the end of it. But this is, again, why when we're going into these situations, if you're going to be the one defending yourself, you have to know your rights and how to argue them. Okay, you have to put these judges and these public servants in check and be able to use what they are bound by against them. So if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And that's what they're counting on. Okay, so today we see in these administrative tribunals, these judges are lying to juries and the jurors every day, saying they can only consider the facts that they're presenting to them. It's treason to the Constitution. Okay, they're waging war against their oath of office to the state and federal constitutions to protect the people's rights. They're actively trying to protect the administrative overlay, the administrative system that is using to bypass our Article 4, Section 4 Republican form of government, where our rights are secured and protected. So let's think about this. If a law says it's illegal to preach without a license, like they did to William Penn, if you guys don't know who that is, you can go look that up and look into that. Okay, or if it tells you you can't drive your vehicle, right, without a government-issued commercial license, okay? Especially if no harm's occurred, the jury, you as a juror, have the power to say, we don't see that as established law. We don't recognize that. We're going to vote not guilty. And boom, that law, that's dead right in the courtroom. Over. Good luck letting them try to use that again, okay? Because we're the ones that make all this power. So that's how we bring that. These, again, I'm showing you, these is another tool that we can use to bring accountability back to our system, from the bottom all the way to the top. We hold these powers, okay? So this is how we stop government overreach, okay? But this is, again, we have to educate ourselves. We have to be the ones that do this, okay? So it starts with the ballot box, right? People try and say, oh, stay out of the voting and blah, blah. Okay, people have to understand, all of these people that are getting voted in, they're sitting there in our seats, getting paid with our money. How can we honestly have people going to vote that don't understand the constitutions, state and federal, and they do not understand their rights? This is where we lose. This is why we have so many problems. We have ignorant people voting in our elections that have no business doing so. The vast majority of people are only ignorant to this because of the system itself. So that's where, again, where it's going to take we the people stepping up to correct these issues that are taking place. It's up to us to fix all of this. So when they're charging people with these victimless crimes every single day, using our public roads without a license, bearing arms without a permit, recording in a public courtroom, reporting your public servants, right? Refusing to comply with unlawful mandates, teaching your children at home. None of these are crimes under common law, right? So there's no injured party, there's no damaged property, there's no intent to harm, and you as the juror, you get to nullify every single one of these statutes that they're calling law. This is why it's very critical. Now, I want everyone to go look this up. I actually have this book in my PMA, in my group, and I have a whole breakdown on it, explaining it all and really getting into in depth. But go pull up the Citizens Rule Book, okay? And this reminds us, we have rights antecedent to all governments, okay? Comes from our rights come from our Creator, okay? And we have to make sure we're able to comprehend this to assert these things. So go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. We were given dominion by our Creator over our lives and lands. Not the judges, not the bureaucrats, not the state, federal government, okay? Us, we have dominion. Then you also have Public Statute Law 97-280, where Congress officially recognized the Bible as the foundation of American law. And what are they sworn to uphold? Our God-given rights. So that means our natural law and God's law are superior to any man-made regulations. So we're not bound to obey any unlawful statutes that override our God-given rights. So this is what you need to do. You need to learn the state and federal constitutions. Study the Citizens Rule Book. Know your rights as when you get called to jury duty. If a law is unjust, hang the jury, nullify it. Okay? Teach others, share this message, because the only power a judge has is your ignorance. And once the people remember who we truly are, their bullshit tyranny, it dies.